Hello everybody, Heckendoc here. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of time and do a tutorial on the new salvage operations that are associated with MekHQ 50.10. So if you've been playing MekHQ for a while, you're going to be very familiar with the screen that looks kind of like this at the end of any of your battles. You don't need to have any special units, personnel, or anything like that. And at the end of the battle, you are given this screen on what you would like to salvage, sell, or whatever ran away. No longer is this the case if you select the new salvage operations starting with version 50.10 in MekHQ. Let's go ahead and jump on over to a game and see what's going on. So this is a test bed campaign that I have going so that we can talk about a few different things. Before we get started, you should know that all of the rules that are associated with salvage with 50.10 in MekHQ are in these two source books, Campaign Operations and Total Warfare. In Campaign Operations, that talks about salvage operations in general when it comes to going out on the field and salvaging mechs and other equipment. Not everything has been implemented yet, however, they are working on implementing all of the rules over time. Total Warfare talks more about what the capacities of all of the different units are and how much they can tow, as well as the additional rules for different equipment. Now, to get started with all of your salvage operations, you do not necessarily need a specific salvage lance. However, if you would like a lance or a group of vehicles that are not counted against you in your TO&E or are not counted against you when you are generating missions, i.e. they do not count against you in terms of BV, then when you go to your TO&E, you select a specific lance that you can title whatever you want. I've titled mine Recovery. You put all of the units in there that you want to put in there. So for example, we have some recovery vehicles. We have some heavy recovery vehicles. I also have a hauler mech, a salvage mech, a logger mech, and a construction mech. I've put all of these mechs all into one lance. Once all of these vehicles and mechs are in the place that you want them to be, you right click on the lance. You go down to Change Force Type and you select Make Salvage Force. This changes the force type to a salvage force so they can still be utilized in one of the next steps. However, it does not count against you in terms of BV. It is not on your briefing room as a lance that is usable as a combat force, and those units can still help you out along the way. However, if you do not have any of those vehicles and you don't want to go through and purchase them, you can utilize combat forces that are not actively engaged in order to go back and salvage other units. As I said, the rules for what the carrying capacity of different mechs are is covered in the Total Warfare rulebook. So with that, you have your units all in place. You will also need to have some mechs available, you'll also need to have some techs available in order to essentially hook everything up to all of these different units. The amount of time that is needed from all of those techs is covered in the Campaign Operations Sourcebook. Go ahead and hop on over there, but the long and short of it is that essentially you need about 80 minutes of time for each tech in order to hook up a mech. And then the weight of a vehicle is what determines how long it takes to hook up any of those vehicles. You can hop on over there. It's around page 241, give or take a little bit, in the Campaign Operations Sourcebook. So with that being said, when you are getting ready to go into a mission, as long as you are able to control the battlefield at the conclusion of the engagement, you can click either Start Game or Auto Resolve, whichever one you are going to do. When that happens, you can select whatever unit you want to go and pick up your salvage. On the right-hand side, you will see how many picks you get. This is how many, at most, mechs you will be able to pick up at the end of the engagement. So if I click my recovery lance, it is a salvage type lance. It is not a combat type lance. The max cargo capacity of anything that is there is 100 tons. So the max cargo it can carry is a 100-ton mech or vehicle. The max tow capacity is 70. And you can also hover over it and it highlights what all the vehicles are that you have and what their max tow and cargo capacities are. Same thing on the max cargo. and then picks the maximum number of units that can be salvaged by this force. If you are in a situation where some of your units do not have the capacity to pull something off the field, so you have something that can pull 50 tons and you have an awesome that you want to drag off the field, you can utilize 2 vehicles to drag it off the field. However, that means that you will have one less pick at the end of the battle in order to pull that off the field. Just keep that in mind. So once you've selected the lance that you want, click confirm. You will be faced with this next screen. This is all of your text that you have available, both mech text and mechanics. It doesn't matter who you select. All that matters is that you select the appropriate number of texts for the units that you will be getting at the end of that mission. So with an average of 80 to 90 minutes per unit that you are dragging off of the field, normally you want probably 2 or 3 techs. Choose your own adventure. For me personally, I always select techs that have no units assigned to them. And I try to get techs that have green or maybe regular skill levels. Ultra green or green are the ones that I select most often though, because if you are going with the standard veteran options for MekHQ, then there is a chance that one of these people can be hurt or even killed through salvage operations. So I would rather one of my green people gets killed rather than one of my veteran or elite people gets killed. It's always very awkward. So for this case, I'm going to select 3 people, an ultra green and 2 greens. It doesn't matter because they're not making any rolls to see if they can get the salvage. It's just that you need the people to do the work. You hit confirm, and then it takes you into where you were going to be before. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video now. I'm going to move forward until we are done with this fight, and we'll pick up at the end of this. So here we are at the end of the battle. We have all of the units that fought in the battle, as well as all of our allies. And a lot of things are going to look very similar as they did in previous versions. So you have what your units were and whatever was the total loss. You have your personnel and whoever was killed or missing in action. Then you move on to your salvage. You'll notice that we have fewer options that are available to us, and they have changed somewhat. The first column is recoverable. This is the units that are able to be recovered. However, they may or may not be salvaged at the end of this. Then you have the units that have escaped. Otherwise, everything else looks fairly similar to the way that it did before. Once you're all done, you can click Finish, and you'll see a new window pop up. With this new window, you'll have the salvage percentage that you have available to you, your ally salvage in C-bills, your salvage in C-bills, and you will also have your available time in minutes. One big change that has happened from previous versions to now. Previously, you were able to go over on your salvage percentage. So if you wanted to go to 51% just to get that one last little mech and risk potentially you having to pay a little bit of fine at the end of the contract, that is no longer an option to you. Your salvage must stay below whatever the agreed upon percentage is. So it now behooves you in some way to build up your potential salvage percentage at the beginning of your contract to have more available to you at the end. And then you're able to see what your total C-bill amount is throughout the contract and what your available time is for this mission. When you are selecting units, you click that first drop down and you can select any of the options that are available to you. You can select a unit, and if that unit is able to haul it off either by carrying it or by dragging it, at the right-hand side, it will say valid. If that unit is not able to, that unit will be red, and on the right side, it will say needs more cargo. If that is the case, you can go to that second drop-down and select a second unit in order to assist it. If you don't have anything available, then you might end up needing to leave that on the field of battle. Once that is all done, you do have several options that are available to you on the left. The leftmost option is an information screen on how that unit is. How does it what is left on it, and what is the status of that vehicle. The second most button is not utilized at this time. However, I believe that it'll probably be utilized in future versions. The first checkbox is where if you want to salvage a unit, you select that box. That is what allows you to salvage the unit. However, if you would prefer to sell the unit, you select the second box. That allows you to sell the unit. If you don't want to sell the unit and you want to utilize it to increase what your salvage potential is in a future mission, you select neither option. This means that you will be hauling these off the field of battle for your employer to utilize, and they will be getting the salvage. This may behoove you in order to be able to get potentially better salvage in the future, but it is a risk. Once you are all done selecting whatever you want, you simply hit confirm. You will get a pop-up window that says, "Are you sure? Are you really sure?" This is because at this point, this is a point of no return. Once you select confirm, you cannot go back and change this unless you either refight the battle or you go to a prior save, you upload the mul file, and then you go through the process again. We'll go ahead and hit confirm. We lost somebody on that fight, so let's move past that. And you go through everything like normal, and then you are done. This has been your tutorial for the new salvage operations that have been implemented in version 50.10 in MekHQ. If you have any additional questions, I encourage you to go over to the Discord channel, which if you go down into the description below this video, you'll be able to find a link to either the Discord channel or the MekHQ website, which also has a link to the Discord channel for MekHQ. If you've enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. If you did not enjoy this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down and leave a comment saying what you would like to see done better. Please keep tuned for additional tutorials, and if you enjoy this kind of content or you enjoy playthroughs of campaigns, go ahead and go on over to one of the other playlists or click the link at the end of this video in order to see some different plays. You have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.